Great discussion here. Danielle Smith is the Premier of Alberta. Not often noted, Canada is the world's fourth largest oil producer in the world, and 85% of Canada's oil comes from Alberta. Jim Fitterly, no, I'm going down. Susan Bonet-Beaudois is the Secretary of Economic Development from Louisiana, and it is noted that 61% of U.S. LNG exports leave the state of Louisiana. And of course, our friend Jim Fitterly, who is the chair and CEO of Dow, which is one of the world's great materials and petrochemical companies. So we're going to have a very good discussion this morning. There's a lot to talk about. I can't resist. In fact, I'm required to start by asking Danielle, what do you think about tariffs?
I don't like them. I would love for us to go back to the kind of tariff-free relationship on most of our goods that we've enjoyed historically since the NAFTA agreement. And then, of course, what we heard the U.S. president say in his first term, the best trade agreement ever, the USMCA. There's always a couple of little skirmishes that we have in there, but even with the latest escalation and de-escalation of yesterday, one thing I think we should take to heart is there's a few things not included in the list of irritants, and one of them is, of course, energy. And I think that includes not only oil and gas, but also critical minerals. And so I think once we get through this little bit of a rough patch, we can really talk about how Alberta can contribute to U.S. energy dominance. We think that the message is important. We think it's kind of Fortress North America. We think that we can backfill with our product to the United States to maintain low consumer prices and also enable the U.S. to export more internationally. And then we're very seized by the discussion about winning the AI race. I don't think any of us want to see a communist totalitarian regime become a world global leader in AI. So we're hoping that we'll be able to contribute to that discussion too.
One of the major newspapers is running a daily tally of what's happening with tariffs. What's the current tariff on oil from Alberta?
Well, let me check Truth Social because it might have changed in the 10 minutes that I've monitored. But I think the current tally is that we have 25% tariffs on steel, 25% tariffs on aluminum, and then those products that do not qualify for the USMCA exemption have 10% on energy resources and 25% on everyone else.
So on your barrels of oil?
Well, I can tell you China's not dumping into the Alberta market secretly to send oil into the American market. There was a bit of a paperwork issue that our companies had. There was no reason to register. And so now there is, and so I would imagine that they've all called their lawyers and they're in compliance. So I wouldn't expect very much more oil and gas is tariffed at all.
But I mean, is there 10%?
No, it would be anything that's USMCA compliant. It has that reprieve until April the 2nd, at which point where Chris, I mean, if you listen to Energy Secretary Chris White, I think he was talking about it going down to zero before the latest round of escalation.
So since you come from north of that border, what's been the political impact? You're seen as kind of on the right side of the political spectrum. There are others on the left side.
Well, the Liberals the Liberals under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau were heading not only to defeat, but near wipeout. That's what we were talking about. And now because of the esprit de corps that has been generated by the attacks, it looks like they might win the next election under their new leader, Mark Carney, who's even worse for the energy sector, in my opinion, than the outgoing Prime Minister. So I think it may have had an equal and opposite effect, counter to what the president was expecting. But it's going to be a very hard-fought election for who we thought was going to be the leader, the new Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre.
Has there been a cohesion within Canada in reaction to this?
I would say that I'm good cop and others are bad cop. I have a great relationship with some of the members of the administration. Because I'm more conservative, there's a lot of other issues that we find alignment on. And I would rather be diplomatic and try to get to whatever the long-term relationship is going to be. I don't think you blow up a 100-year trade history with two incredible allies over some temporary problems. I think, yes, we have to get through them, we have to identify the issues, but I'm playing the long game here. I want to build 2 million barrels more per day of pipeline access from Canada to the US. So if we might not be able to start
2 million more.
Yeah, we might not be able to start that conversation today, but I hope we can start it soon.
One last question, then we'll switch to it. any greater pressure to have a pipeline capacity to the Pacific?
Well, I would say yes. I mean, we've got two futures ahead of us. One future is we keep on fighting with our American friends for the next 2 years, and Congress switches. Now we can't even have a pipeline conversation anymore. And then the 4-year term is up and we haven't made any progress. Or we can start that conversation now and get pipelines built. The other option, of course, if we continue to fight for 4 years, is that there are a number of different pipeline options emerging in Canada. 3 different pipeline proposals to the west coast in British Columbia, at least one up north into the Northwest Territories in Nunavut, Churchill, which is in Manitoba, James Bay, and then over on Eastern Canada. So there's at least 6 or 7 projects that are emerging in Canada in the event we're not able to come to a partnership agreement with the US.
Well, thank you, Danielle.